Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 27th Maitland City Council meeting. If you would, please remember to silence your devices. And also, this evening, we're going to try to shift to a speaker card format. So if you wish to speak during the public period or any other period, if you please fill out a speaker card. It would help us to be able to keep the minutes, our clerks to help us keep the minutes, to spell names properly and that type of thing. So let's give that a shot tonight. And if you would please start off with a moment of silence. Join me, please. Thank you. And now, if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a couple of presentations this evening, and if Chief Watts would please join me up here for the first one. Kind of a good news, bad news evening, I think we're going to have here, but this one is good. Chief, do you want to make the presentation for Maitland's Firefighter of the Year?
Thank you. Mayor, Council, thank you very much for having me up here. It's an exciting day for us as we announce our 2022 Firefighter of the Year. Unfortunately, firefighter paramedic Elijah Taylor is unable to join us tonight. He's got a very young baby at home, and he had child care arrangements that he had to tend to, and so we certainly understand being a father comes first and foremost, and so he's home caring after his little one. I'm going to talk a little bit about Elijah Taylor. I understand you have some information in your packet before you, but Elijah is a firefighter paramedic with the city. He's been employed since 2016. He's stationed here at 45, which is right here next to City Hall. And he's a member of our special operations team. He is certified in aerial operations with our ladder truck, advanced rope and vehicle machinery rescue, as well as a rescue swimmer trained. So he is a very specialized, one of our specially trained firefighters that we have a good number of them in the fire department. We're certainly proud of his achievements. He was nominated by his peers. Any of our firefighters of the year are nominated by their peers, and we've been doing this for about 5 years now. And here's just a few attributes that they say about him. And again, some of those are in your packet, but he's always got a positive attitude. And that's difficult in the fire service, to always come back to the station, ready to start your next round of responsibilities, whether it's station cleanup or anything like that. He's always positive. He's the equivalent to a second engineer. So an engineer in the fire department is a first line supervisor, but he's a firefighter paramedic, so he doesn't hold that rank. He's the equivalent of that first round supervisor, and he demonstrates this in his role as a senior firefighter, always assisting in training other firefighters. In fact, there isn't a junior firefighter, junior to him as far as a less tenured firefighter, that would not attribute a portion of their knowledge or success to Elijah Taylor. So, as you can imagine, I'm certainly proud to announce that he's our 2022 Firefighter of the Year, and he will be receiving this glass trophy tower. It's very nice. It's something we give all of our Firefighter of the Year, and his name will be on a plaque in the lobby of our fire administration to recognize this achievement. So although he's not here, if I could get a round of applause for his achievement.
Stay around for a second here. This is what I was referring to as the good news, bad news portion. We have a presentation for Fire Chief Watts on his retirement. It's hard to believe that Chief Watts is going to be leaving us. He's been with us for 22 years. I'd like to give you a little bit of background on where the chief come from. William Watts is the city's 6th full-time fire chief. He started in 2001 as an EMT firefighter and was promoted to the ranks in his 22-year tenure. During Watts' tenure as chief, he led the department through accreditations from the Center for Public Safety and Excellence and the Commission on Accreditation of Ambulance Services. The department also achieved Class 1 status from the Insurance Service Organization under his leadership. As the city's emergency manager, Chief Watts managed emergency operations for the city through several tropical weather events and the COVID-19 pandemic. Chief Watts is married with 2 children and 2 stepchildren and lives in Winter Springs. He was the vice president of the Central Florida Fire Chiefs Association from 2021 to 2023. Previous to that, he held the Orange County District Representative positions from 2020 to 2021. Chief Watts holds a bachelor's degree in emergency management from Waldorf University in Forest City, Iowa, and an associate's degree in fire science from Columbia Southern University in Orange Beach, Alabama. He also holds Fire Officer 2 and Fire Instructor 3 from the State of Florida Fire Marshal's Office, and the Chief Fire Officer designation from the Center of Public Safety Excellence. These are the accomplishments that we don't know about the chief, but what we all know from being around him these last several years is what a wonderful person he is, and what a sterling embodiment of all the positive characteristics that you want in somebody on the front line like the chief has been. And we're very sad to lose him. We are happy that he'll still be around, and he promised me tonight that he was going to be sticking around and coming to all these meetings like he always does. So we're going to have to hold him to that. But we're happy for him that he gets to go in his retirement. I'm sure you have, your family's looking forward to seeing much more of you on a much more regular basis. The fire service is not an easy thing, and it's hard on families. And I'm happy for you that you're going to be able to spend these years with your family. And we're sad to lose you, but we're happy for your retirement. And I'd like to present you with this plaque, a memento of our appreciation. Let's see. William Watts, an appreciation for your loyal and distinguished service, presented on March 27, 2023 by the City Council, City Administration, and Citizens of Maitland.
Mayor, I appreciate those kind words. Council, City Manager, department heads in the back, citizens, my family. I stand before you just as one person and one member of a 47-member fire department. It takes all of us to make the city safe. And I was just fortunate enough to lead this department for the past 4 years. Prior to that, I led alongside retired Fire Chief Kim Neisler, and it was just an honor to follow in her footsteps. I've been blessed with a 22-year career working for the city. I never envisioned being up here and being the fire chief. I wanted to be a paramedic when I got into this job, and then I realized you had to be a firefighter in order to be successful. So Maitland was the first fire department I applied with, and I was hired, fortunately, and here I am retired 22 years later. This city is a great city to work for, and it's wonderful to leave it on such a positive note, being an accredited fire department in both ambulance and fire accreditations, being a Class 1 with the Insurance Service Organization, and being led by such a great interim city manager that anyone could ask for, and a council that supports public safety the way it does. The fire department is in great hands, And I couldn't be more proud of where we are, and I certainly appreciate the kind words once again. And well, wait, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention some individuals here. My family is right here to my left. My sister, my father, my mother, my wife, 3 of my 4 kids. My daughter is a theater manager in her school production at her local high school, and she's putting on a performance this weekend, and so she's in crunch time at her high school. So I certainly understand that, but if it wasn't for these individuals, I would not have been successful in my career, and I owe my success to their support, and I couldn't thank them enough. I love you guys. Thank you very much.
We have one more presentation this evening. Karen McCullen and Lynn Tracy, if you join me up here. I'm going to provide the proclamation, and maybe you can have a few words afterwards. Okay? Whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature, and whereas the state of Florida, water management districts, and the city of Maitland are working together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation, and whereas the city of Maitland has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various educational programs and special events, whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can make a difference when it comes to conserving water, and whereas leak prevention is commonly thought to be the first step in conserving water, the city of Maitland will encourage citizens and businesses to focus on fixing leaks. Now, therefore, I, John P. Lowndes, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Maitland, Florida, and on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Water Conservation Month. And we call on each citizen and business to help protect this precious resource by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. For this, the 25th year of Water Conservation Month, there will be a special focus on fixing leaks and all forms of water loss. And Karen, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you, everyone, and especially to the council for supporting public works the way you guys do and investing in our infrastructure. That is definitely one of the most things that we need in order to do our job. And we appreciate your assistance, your time. And Maitland has been a great place to work. And we hope to keep continuing with water conservation with Robert Sargent putting out some public information on how we do that. We do have automatic meter readings for maybe those that don't quite know. So we are able to really get into depth of where water is going, and if we end up finding a leak, we are notified of that, and we can reach out to customers and express that and tell them and help them work through that and understand really where our water is going. It's a great technology, and we use it to the best of our ability. So thank you very much.
All right, here we go.
Thank you.
Okay, let's adjourn the council meeting and convene the CRA meeting. We are now in CRA. Teresa Garrett, thank you for joining us. First order of business is to approve the CRA minutes of September 26, 2022. The motion will be in order.
I'll move the motion.
And the motion?
I'll second the approval of the minutes.
And a second. There we go. Laura, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall Harrison. Aye. Councilmember Wurzel.
Aye.
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Board Member Teresa Garrett.
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes.
Aye. Okay, we are approved. As far as the minutes go, we have a public period where anybody from the public can address the CRA on any item not before on the agenda, or even if it's on the agenda, we'll take that. Seeing none, let's close the public period. Any old business, Mr. City Manager?
No, sir.
Okay. The new business is to receive the 2022 CRA audited financial statements. Mark, would you introduce the item?
Absolutely. As you can see when you reviewed the financial statements, it's pretty straightforward. Our CRA is pretty straightforward. We borrowed some money and we've been paying it back. And so that's what the financial statements indicate. There are no comments from the auditor, so we're running clean and green on the CRA side.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions of Mark? Or Jerry? None? Okay. Anybody from the public have any comment on the audited statements from the CRA? Seeing none, let's close the public period. And if there's no further discussion, the motion to accept would be in order.
Make a motion to accept the audited financial statements.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Laura, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Hall Harrison. Aye. Councilmember Wurzel. Aye. Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Board Member Teresa Garrett.
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes.
Aye. Okay. All right, let's adjourn the CRA. And thank you, Ms. Garrett, for coming. And reconvene the council meeting. So we're back in city council mode. Mark, is there any old business?
No, sir.
Okay. Consent agenda. Does anybody wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Seeing none, let's ask for public comment on the consent agenda items number 2 through 5. Anybody have any comment on items 2 through 5? Seeing none, let's close the public period. And a motion will be in order.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Motion and second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wurzel.
Aye.
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall Harrison. Aye. Mayor Lowndes.
Aye. Okay, consent agenda is accepted. Let us open the public period. We have a speaker card from Dale McDonald.
Okay, Dale McDowell, 108 Tangelo Court. I just want to take the opportunity to thank a couple of bright, energetic young Maitlanders that were here at our last meeting advocating on behalf of permanent pickleball courts in Maitland. That being a byproduct of as much as I've been around the city in the last month, learned a great deal more about the desire and the willingness for people to want to have the opportunity to participate in an active element to our Parks and Recreation program. Had the opportunity to sit and watch folks play on temporary courts for a couple of what they're available a couple of days a week, and actually watch people wait in line to play. And so I'm a big advocate, as well as these Maitland high schoolers were, about being able to take advantage of clearly the fastest growing sport in the country. So many ways that engenders the ability for folks of all ages, genders, persuasions to play and interact. And it certainly seems to be from my own experience as well as others, the ability to give our residents another option, an active second option, or another option on our Parks and Recreation offerings, to be able to have the facilities that will be able to accommodate that. We have places to do that, with bathrooms and parking and other things that are necessary to make it go. And obviously surrounding municipalities, whether it be Winter Park, the villages, other parts of Central Florida, and it's just exploded. So certainly love for you folks to consider that as part of any CIP considerations, which y'all will be undertaking soon enough. And any other questions that y'all have, I'm sure you've all run into folks that are big advocates for it as well, not just me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Anybody else?
I didn't fill this out.
That's okay. We'll make a special waiver for you this evening.
I remember that. You can do it this afterwards.
I mean, it takes a while to get. It's a new practice. It's going to take a little while to get going, but that's fine. If you can fill it out up there, or
All right.
all we really need is your name and
And I want.
your city. I think we know where to get you.
Okay, I want to do it right.
We kind of threw you a curveball tonight. Sorry about that. This is the first time at speaker card.
Thank you. Joanne Benty, 1771 Schnook Trail, Maitland, Florida. I feel like I'm born at this point. I agree with Mr. McDonald about some needs of the city, but it's been my experience the last few years that we have a list of other items that have come before you, such as the library, such as the splash pads. We're working on a library, so what I would ask y'all to do is to prioritize your efforts, your focus, your money, and your wisdom to try to line these things up. I've also recently been in Park, Senior Citizen Park, and a lot of the pavers are broken and misshapen. So I think perhaps some of our time should be afforded to the safety of some of the items we have before we start more paths. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benton. Is there anybody else who'd like to avail themselves for public hearing this evening? Okay, let's close the public hearing. And we have a couple of ordinances to take care of. The first is an ordinance regarding police and firefighter pension. Laura, would you please read the ordinance title?
An ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 4, police officers and firefighters of the City Code, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, Mark, would you introduce the item, please?
Absolutely. This ordinance has been going through the review process for several months now. It basically provides clarification on a number of items. First is to provide clarification on how extra contributions to meet the 20 and out retirement are handled. Essentially, if you're a police officer or firefighter and you want to accelerate your retirement, you can pay extra into the fund to balance it out actuarially. But if you leave early or decide you don't want to continue that, you can get those extra funds that you paid in back. And so this clarifies how you get those back. They can either be paid out directly to you or transferred to the member's share account. I'll get into share accounts in just a moment. It also clarifies how death benefits are distributed, and if you take a look at the language there, it's pretty straightforward on how that's done. That's been done through more of an administrative policy in the past, but the board felt that should be included in the ordinance to clarify that of how a death benefit is distributed for that retirement plan, for that individual's retirement plan. There are also some changes to the IRS rules regarding maximum age at which retirement benefits must be distributed. This has been raised from 70 and a half to 72 unless you retire. Your retirement has been, unless the retiree has reached 70 and a half by December of 2019. So that's an IRS rule that's being incorporated into the ordinance. So that's for the maximum age before you have to start taking distributions. Finally, it clarifies when share plan contributions can be distributed to members, which is, the wording is at least 10 years of service until the member separates service and reaches eligibility of retirement benefits. What the share plan is a benefit that's provided to police officers and firefighters that they receive based upon proceeds from state revenues under Chapter 185 for police and 175 for firefighters. These funds are derived from insurance premiums paid on homeowners and auto insurance. These funds have to be used for the benefit of the members of the fund, which are the police officers and the firefighters. Based upon our current code as far as how these are distributed, these are used to augment retirement. So what we've done is the funds are divided actuarially, annually and actuarially amongst the members to share on an annual basis. These shares can be drawn upon retirement as supplemental income. So you get a pot of money that comes in from the state. Actuary takes a look at that, divides it among the members as a share. Everyone gets a member of that share annually. When they retire, they are able to draw down on that. The actuary does their retirement calculations, and they can draw down on that to supplement their retirement. So the key is it has to be used for the benefit of police officers and firefighters. That's the way that we have chosen to benefit those employees. It also clarifies that within any given share plan year, a beneficiary of a deceased member will receive a pro rata share of the share plan distribution based upon the date of the death, which makes sense. It also clarifies that deferred vested members shall not be entitled to distributions until they reach the normal retirement age at 55 years old, and that annual share distributions commence at age 55 years for early retirees. So you can't retire early and take your share benefit. You have to wait until normal retirement age at age 55. The ordinance has been reviewed by the pension board attorney, the board's actuary, the city attorney, the pension board itself, which both Jerry and Will sit on. So based upon that, we would move to introduce the ordinance and set a public hearing for April 10th.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions, Mark? Thorough description. Any public comment on this ordinance? Seeing none, let's close the public period. And if there's no further discussion, then motion would be in order.
I will move to introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 4, Police and Firefighters, and set the public hearing date for April 10th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Webb.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckley.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall Harrison.
Aye.
Councilmember Wurzel.
Aye.
Mayor Mountain.
Aye. Okay. We've got one first reading. Let's go to the next. It's regarding the zoning map. Lori, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, amending official zoning map, a part of Article 1 of the Maitland Land Development Code by changing the zoning classification of property located at 473 South Keller Road, further described herein from plan development to West Side New Market District, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Dan? Would you like to introduce the item for us?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the subject property here is 473 South Keller Road. It's on the west side of South Keller Road, just south of Fennell Street. It's about 4.74 acres. It's in that area highlighted in the yellow. This is a view of what the property is in its current conditions today. The subject property has a future land use designation of employment center, and the current zoning right now is planned development. The proposed zoning is to go to west side, the New Market subdistrict. I'm not sure why that text is so small on the screen. It looks bigger here. But at any rate, the property history, it was rezoned back in January of 2019 from R1 to PD for a 6-story building, 3 6-story buildings consisting of 50 condominium units. On November 20th of 2019, the DRC approved the site plan, and in May, a site construction permit was approved. As you may recall, back in April 25th of 2022, the applicant came in front of you and asked for a 1-year extension, which you graciously granted to him. But back in late of 2022, the applicant did contact staff expressing the desire to increase the density because there were some complexities developing it as it was approved. So on November 17th, 2022, the applicant held a required community meeting that's now part of the new land development code that's required prior to submitting the application. This is a rendering of the approved site plan and PD, again, 50 units, height of 75 feet. It had 3 buildings, 6 stories tall with some underground some under building parking as well as some surface parking. What the applicant is requesting is change the zoning from the PD to the west side New Market subdistrict. The New Market subdistrict, the criteria are there in the land development code, basically a maximum density up to 65 units per acre with an FAR of 3.0, and open space is very consistent with the current open space in the PD. So as you recall, the purpose and intent of the west side zoning district is to support economically vibrant, well mixed use, walkable, high density and intensity employment, retail and residential uses. Specifically, the New Market subdistrict supports high density mixed use office, research and development, other employments and residential uses within a strong pedestrian form. And it was intended to include a mix that was flexible to adapt to the changing markets in the future. The west side subdistrict market allows for a variety of multifamily type uses, townhouses, 4-story, 4plexes, multifamily live-work units, and a variety of non-residential uses. This is just one clipping of the land development code, but the non-residential uses are quite plentiful in the west side district. So here we are in stage 8 of the process. They had their pre-application meeting, their neighborhood meeting. The staff reviewed it back in back in February of 23 with the unanimous recommendation of approval. It went to P&Z on March 2nd, where they recommended unanimously approval to rezone the property. And again, here's the dates: February 1st, the DRC recommended it, March 2nd, P&Z. So staff is recommending council introduce the ordinance amending the official zoning map located at 473 South Keller Road and set the public hearing and action date for April 10th, 2023. The applicant is also here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. You may or may not have any comments.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any comments or questions of Dan?
So there's really no plans yet. This is what you showed us was the old plan, so we're still waiting for them to draw up new plans on what this will look like, correct?
That's correct. It's straight zoning, so there's no concept plans, nothing. Now, he may have some drawn up that we haven't seen yet, but there's nothing that we know of.
And maybe if, after everything gets said and done in public period, you could talk to some of the things, but, I see it right on Lake Shadow, and I know this is going to be a lot of pervious area, and that's fine. It's in that area where it, is acceptable, and I know it's going to bring a lot of great things to that area. So with infrastructure and stormwater, And I guess that's my question is, do you see any problem with how much he wants to have in storing that stormwater?
The answer to your question, no, because he will still have to meet all the requirements of the Water Management District, the Land Development Code. So he will have to meet everything that's in there. The going outside of the PD, when he was in the PD, he was under the old code and he was exempt from some of the regulations that we have now in the new Land Development Code, including sustainability standards and some other one of those standards that are now in the new code that he'll be meeting. So long answer short is no, I don't think we have any concerns over.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I guess I'm asking this in that, do we have a setback from the lake of where we can store stormwater?
There's a 50-foot setback from the normal high water line, regardless if it's the PD or the straight zoning.
Okay, thank you.
Dan, there was earlier developments around the lake there. There was some attempt to get a walking trail around the lake, and I don't know if that was part of the earlier PD as well.
It is part of the earlier PD. It's also in the bikehead master plan, so it would be required under straight zoning as well.
Okay, so we're not going to lose that.
We're not going to lose that, no, sir.
Okay, and the developer's here this evening?
Developer is here.
Is the young man in the lanyard back? Oh, you're okay. All right.
Not so young.
Okay.
Good evening, Eli Melman.
Okay, thank you for coming this evening. Does anybody else have any questions on this development? Okay, so I guess the process is we'll set it up for a first reading, and then if we get to vote tonight, then we'll go to the second reading.
I guess I got one question. Are you looking to do condos? I mean, I saw your uses on here. What's your idea going forward?
We had it approved for 50 condos. Market condition changed, and we had a site permit. Then we entered the pandemic period, which put everything on hold. And right now, with the new zoning, we're at very initial stages of the design of a mixed-use, multifamily, mostly multifamily, 55-plus community. And then I don't have any designs, and I don't have anything to show right now, but that's going to go through the initial site plan approval, and once we make the first introduction. So once we get the zoning, we know how to design it accordingly.
Okay. No further questions. We've opened it up for public comment. Did we do public comment already? Public comment. We're going to open it up for public comment. Anybody in the public have any comment on this item?
I didn't fill out one for this particular topic.
We'll mark it down as we've got one up here. We know how to.
I think you got
I
that.
handle it. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, when we just heard the property owner refer to an over 55 project, and since we've had some experience with over 55 projects, might this be something that would fall under the guidelines of another ALF or something like that, that might find itself being subject to a payment in lieu of taxes provision? And that's just a curious consideration, because when we thought of it as a condo for so very long, I hadn't worried about that, but now it's a consideration that I don't know if it fits within the provisions of the distance setup, so we've set up for ALFs, or y'all have set up for ALFs, so, which is not an unusual provision in our experience, to do a pilot program. In lieu of the realistic expectation that this could be, acquired by a nonprofit. Thanks. That would be my question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Any other public comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, let's close the public period and bring it back up to the council. Any further discussion?
I think without knowing what this looks like, the increase in density becomes, I guess, what really is an issue. Is that really the purpose, or what is the goal here to get it out of the PD process? Because Dan and I've had many conversations. I don't think PDs are a bad thing, but
The idea was, the PD was very restrictive. It was a single use, locked in a lot of parameters. With the straight zoning, he can do a mixed use product. He can provide more retail or commercial or office there, as well as multifamily. He's got a variety of uses to choose from. And as a reminder, this is the west side. This is the side that in the land development code and in the comp plan, we said this is where we want density. This is where we want intensity.
yeah, I think you can have all of what you just said inside a PD as well. So you don't need straight zoning to get all the uses that you just listed, because you can do that all in a PD. I think you just, by taking it out of the PD, you just remove a process. Whether or not you think the process is a good thing or a bad thing is, I guess, debatable. But by moving it out of a PD, you could create a new PD, but for whatever the density requirements are, you could get everything you just described. It would just be another layer to the process. And by going to straight zoning, you just remove the layer. So that would be if staff thinks that that's recommended, it removes, I think, a public hearing process and obviously a city council vote on the PD. So I don't know what is the goal, just to get density, or is the goal to get out of the PD process?
Well, and I'll let Ellie answer that. I mean, from a staff's perspective, it was both. It was density, and it was also to allow for more flexibility that a straight zoning could. When you get in a PD, you're locking it in for that specific use or that mix of uses. And anytime you change it, you got to come back and go through the process again. Whereas a straight zoning, if the market changes 6 months from now or a year from now, it could be flexible with the uses or with the type of development.
Right. You get the flexibility to the developer, but then you lose control from a city perspective.
You lose control from the PD, but you still have the land development code that controls what you're going to get. Yeah, absolutely.
Could I? First of all, I wanted to make two main comments here. Density, I know we can achieve the density under the PD. Same type of density that zoning allows, we can get through the PD. The problem is, PDs have an expiration date. And once the zoning is put in place, we have the capability of maybe adding the adjacent property to the south, to the north, which already has this zoning, and create a larger, because the property, the way it is right now, it's a very narrow and straight, it's 160 foot wide by 1,000 feet deep. And if we get the same zoning as the property on the north, which is already zoned, we can create one larger community. Now, I don't know if we'll be able to get the property on the north, but that's the goal. It's not just strictly higher density. The higher density we can get at the PD. We already have the PD. We submit a new PD, a new site plan, and we get the density. So that's the thinking behind it.
So you sound more optimistic about that property than you did, 3 weeks ago at P&Z. So you really think you have a chance to purchase that? It looks pretty good, you think?
I'll be honest with you. I've made contact with the parties involved. There is no communication going on, but that's my straight answer. I don't have anything under contract with the property. I would like to purchase it. I would like to be able to develop both properties the same, but it's hard because they have a situation over there, so if we're not able to add a property to the north to our property, we'll end up developing our property. under the new zoning, but it's a process.
Right.
You know, you make decisions as you go.
Well, I don't want to because we don't want to interfere with. So whatever happens to the north on the adjacent piece, I think is not really the purpose of this here. This is a rezone of this property, so I think whatever is on that adjacent piece is probably not. Because we don't want to, I mean, honestly, we should know in many ways, but it's not really relevant to today's year.
I would just like to say that, of course, it's important for our values as a city and our priorities to be maintained, and it's, that's what the land code is for, and some of our new, policies that reflect sustainability, like Dan mentioned, and like Mayor Lowndes mentioned, we have our bike ped master plan that incorporates some of these things. So it's certainly not a free-for-all by any means, and there's obviously a process which the developer's already gone through and gotten approval unanimously at each of those levels. But it sounds to me like I would say that we need to be careful to not want things both ways and want to continuously say we would like to develop the west side, but then do a lot of things that hinder people from doing that. And if we restrict the flexibility within these markets and require people to come back every 6 months or a year every time something changes, that we're really shooting ourselves in the foot, I believe, and we're making it impossible for people to do what they need to do as business people, and I believe it makes us a very unattractive place for developers in the future, and I think that that's something to be mindful of, and again, reiterating, it's not like it's a free-for-all. We do have these structures in place, and that's part of what the purpose was in redoing some of our codes previously and recently, and so as was mentioned before, the developer had to come here 6 months ago to ask for an extension already once, and it sounds like, given the recommendations of the board and also staff, I just wanted to keep those things in mind.
So my question is, under what he has today, and I think it was for condos, is the 55 and over, is he able to go ahead and build those under the conditions he has today?
Yeah, under a PDS that didn't restrict.
They didn't restrict
age.
that?
Yeah. Right.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Anybody feel like a motion?
I'd like to move to introduce an ordinance amending the official zoning map, case number AZS 2022-0001, located at 473 South Keller Road, and set public hearing and action date for April 10th, 2023.
I will second.
A motion and a second. Board, would you please call the roll?
Aye.
Councilmember Hall Harrison? Aye. Councilmember Wurzel?
Aye.
Councilmember Wild?
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes?
Aye. Okay. We have now an appointment for the Orange County First Development Tax Citizens Advisory Task Force. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mr. Melda. Let's see who can introduce this for us. It's me. Okay.
I could if you'd like me to, Mayor.
Well, if I stumble, will you catch me?
Always.
All right. I got a letter from our county mayor, Demings, who asked me to appoint somebody to the TDT task force, which he is convening because he feels like the task force future, the TDT future, needs a little more, some more opinions involved. And so he's put together a task force that includes members, among other people, members, each commissioner on the county commission appointed a representative, and each city in each of the 13 municipalities in the county would also appoint. I think there are also representatives of unions and all kinds of interest groups. So I think it is going to be a large task force. And it really has to do with now that the TDT is coming back into its own, it's getting ready to, it's kind of righted itself after the pandemic and getting ready to spend some more money. And I think the mayor was looking for input on direction for the future for the TDT. And so what I'd like to do is ask everybody or anybody who wants to nominate somebody for this, and we should appoint somebody so Maitland can be represented on this task force as well. And so it's not governmental representatives, and it's not anybody who's looking for a grant from the TDT, tax. So it really is kind of more advisory role on what the future looks like for spending this incredible amount of money that is in the TDT. So that being said, did I miss anything, Mark?
No, just to emphasize it, no registered lobbyists, elected officials, organizations that currently receive TDT funding or potentially may seek TDT funding, which kind of casts a broad net.
It does. Yes. Yes. Okay. So let's just throw it open to discussion, or if anybody has any nominees they'd like to get out, or let's start with discussion. Does anybody have any questions about that? It's all pretty self-evident. We sent Mayor Deming's letter around, and he was more than eloquent on the subject. Any discussion?
So I put this out on social media, and given the waning little soapbox that I currently have, my windfall, people are actually responding. And so I do have 2 people who asked to put their names forward. Mike Thomas wanted to be considered, but he comes with a footnote, which is he's not going to be available for all of the meetings. The other person who approached me and said he would be interested in providing me his resume is Jeff Flowers. He said he would also be interested in being considered, and he can attend all the meetings. I think that really here in Maitland we have a very unique opportunity to have a voice in this situation when we don't typically get to weigh in on these sorts of matters. And like you said, this is a significant pot of money. And since most of it usually gets concentrated down in the tourist district, down by I-Drive and Disney, the opportunity for us to be able to weigh in on where we want to see this money go and where we think that it's best invested, I think is a really great opportunity. So I would recommend that we have somebody up there who has a voice who wants to be assertive with it.
Okay. I agree. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Dale McDonald, who served 6 years on the Orange County Tourist Development Board.
Okay. Anybody else?
I was also contacted by a new name, which makes me so very excited. And his name is Bill Derrick, and he is a dominant parent of 3 and a veteran of the Marine Corps, and is looking to get involved in city business and things like that. And so I talked to him briefly, and as always, I'm excited about the opportunity of someone who has the potential to, but has not yet been able to have the experience of being a fairly new member of the Maitland community and young parent to get involved.
Okay. Mr. Wild?
I was contacted by some of the same people, so I don't have a name to add to that list, and we know some of the other names out there. Obviously, we've served with Mike and with Dale, and I also know Bill Derrick, local business person, and I know him to be a very good person. So beyond the people that we think we all know about, I also know Bill.
Okay.
As a new name, as Lori said.
Right. Okay. Lori, what is our procedure on this?
Well, this is not, so you have to keep in mind in our rules, which
Right.
we do have, this is not one of our boards or committees. So I was optimistic to throw the rules in here, but we do have our handy-dandy rules here.
This is, I got a question.
Yep.
If you wouldn't mind. This is a decision item, so do we have to still open it to the public?
Well, we have not when it's been other
Well, that's why I'm
board
questioning.
appointments.
See, it's,
So that's,
Yeah. Okay.
Start with a name.
Yeah.
Making up rules as we go along.
Okay. Well, and I'm,
No, this is a one-off.
this wasn't a city board or commission, so
Well, it's technically a mayor's appointment, right? So is it,
do we even need to have this vote? Is that
I mean,
you're
that's
saying?
what I'm kind of saying,
Yeah.
like, you're the king, so go for it.
Well, if I had my druthers, I would put Mike Thomas on there, only because he has lived and breathed this stuff for a very, very long time. I mean, he used to cover this for the Sentinel, and he knows the ins and outs. He's written many published articles on, or published pieces on the TDT. And I think he's also, his view is he would like to pry some of that money away from the Orange County Convention Center, and where they spend the majority of the money, and to get it as a, not for one-off projects in city by city, not for a library or for a, I don't know, splash pad or whatever, but to really put it into something that all municipalities would benefit from, which is transportation. Down the line, that could be help for our train station, it could be, other mobility kind of things. So I think that's, the reason I understand Mike's not going to be able to make all the meetings, but I still think that if we can have somebody on there who understands this from the get-go and is able to bend the arc of the discussion at the outset, because this is going to be a cast of thousands at this task force. I mean, and the ability to really change the subject. Again, there might be a lot of people who don't want to change the subject and want the subject to be what it's always been, which is not a benefit to us necessarily. I think Mike is the perfect person to do that, because he really understands how to do that. He understands all the personalities and all the interests at play here. So that he would get my vote. But I didn't want to be the king. I thought I would just set this out for all of us. So, why don't we do this? We'll just, this is a council decision, really. It's a mayor's decision.
Let me just say on Mike real quick. I
Yeah.
completely agree, and I completely agree that Mike's not going to be afraid to change the discussion
Yeah.
and make his voice heard. I just don't, with him not being able to attend the meetings the last couple, I just don't know if that's how effective he would be if he's not able to be there. Because I completely agree with what you just said. I think he knows it, but if he's not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
and I agree with Councilman Wild. I mean, and I've seen, I know he likes to go on family vacations, and those can take a while. He goes out on some great vacations. So I kind of just agree with Councilman Wild.
But I'm not making an opinion. I'm asking. I don't know how this is going to play out. So I don't know if him not being able to be there is an issue or not. I would think if they're only going to meet and the only way they can express their opinions is during the meetings, then that would be a problem.
Right, and
If
it's sunshine too.
But if it's not, and he can make his opinion met, then I think that's less of an issue. So I just don't know how they're structuring these, the way it's going to play out. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I think they have 5 meetings, and my guess is you've got to be there to be heard.
We already missed one meeting, right?
Yeah. So, there's a question, I think, out there as well. I mean, it's nice to have a task force. This task force is not going to make any real decisions. I mean, it's going to be an advisory panel, and they're going to make their advice is going to go up to the 7 county commissioners who are going to listen to it or not. And so at best could be a good nudge in the right direction. It certainly is not, we're not sending somebody up there to actually make a decision. We're sending somebody up there to hopefully get the discussion going in the direction we'd like to go.
They responded to your email with, they were recording the meetings and would have them posted somewhere since we missed the first one. So they are recording them and available, but I don't know how you participate in the discussion, so.
Yeah, I think you really have to be there to be heard, but.
I know on the map we call in, so. There's a lot of
The first meeting was an
mayors.
in-person meeting. I did view the recording of it. Scintillating. Just a lot of information on what the tourist development tax is, the revenues generated, what it goes to. So the first meeting was a lot of background information.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I do agree that Mike is the best choice for his initiative on this and his passion for this very specific issue. But, you know, again, I just didn't want us to be left without representation because, and I don't fault him for wanting to go on vacation, but just the way the timing lines up. So if there's an opportunity for us to perhaps have somebody who is going to take his spot for the last two meetings, who does still give Maitland a presence in the room, then I would absolutely support Mike being our lead man that we send.
Well, I think that's a good idea. As you say, I'm the king up here, so I'll make that a rule. What we could do is have somebody go, and if that person is unable to attend, we could have an alternative. And I would imagine, and I don't know this, but I would imagine that the task force would take anybody that Maitland told them to take. So, we have a primary and an alternate. They don't probably both go to the same meetings, but one can go in place of the other. So we want to do that. How do you feel about that? A primary and an alternate? Let's do that. So let's go ahead. We have Mike Thomas, Jeff Flowers, Doris Huck, Dale McDonald, and Bill Derrick. Those are the ones that I heard. Is that what you had, Lori?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go ahead for the primary seat, and you just call it out and get a first, second, and third when that person is on. If you want to hold your powder for your candidate, then.
Okay, we had Mike Thomas nominated by Councilmember Hall Harrison.
I'd second that.
What are we doing here?
This is for the primary.
Right, but
The primary
what's
person.
the procedurally
The
seconded?
third we'll put him on.
Oh, I'll third.
Okay, he's on. All right. The alternative, when Mr. Thomas is unavailable, let's start with Mr. Flowers.
Nominated by Councilmember Hall Harrison.
Okay, and I'll second that. And, okay, let's go to the next.
Okay. Doris Hawk, she emailed in her request in response to seeing your Facebook post.
Then I would like to nominate Doris.
So nominated by Councilmember Hall Harrison.
Okay. Let's go to the next.
Dale McDonald, nominated by Councilmember Guthrie.
I find this process to be very bizarre.
So we look for a second on
Looking
these, or?
for a second, yeah. So you've got. one.
Yeah, I nominated.
Okay, let's,
Yeah, I find this.
well, do you have a better?
No, I don't.
All right.
Mr. Bill Derrick,
Bill
nominated by Councilmember Wurzel.
I'll
I'll
second.
second. Oh,
I'll second. All right, I'll third it.
there you go.
Okay. All right, so Mike Thomas is our primary, and Bill Derrick is our secondary. Congratulations, gentlemen.
This is a tough one for me with how we do it, for a different night.
All right. Okay, so, and we finish up the evening with the municipal election certification results. Municipal election certificate and results. Lori, will you please present the canvassing board's election certificate?
Yes, the canvassing board's final meeting was on March 17th at the Orange County Supervisor of Elections office to certify the results of the Maitland general election held on March 14th, 2023. The canvassing board certificate of election results are as follows. Seat number 4, incumbent Lindsay Hall Harrison was reelected with a majority of 61.99% of the vote. Charter amendment question 1 passed with 79.03% of the vote. Question 2 passed with 66.87% of the vote. Question 3 was rejected by 63.34% of the vote. Question 4 passed with 73.60% of the vote. And question 5 passed with 52.24% of the vote. In accordance with section 5-5.4 of the city code, the canvassing board certificate of election shall be recorded in the March 27th city council meeting minutes.
Okay, well, congratulations on your re-election. It's awesome. And does anybody have any questions of Lori or Mark or the new council person?
I
The old
actually,
council person?
I have a question about what do we do about the runoff now? Because I know that part of the issue and why we ended up putting that on the ballot was because it was going to have conflicting language if we didn't resolve it.
Yes.
And part of that was Bill Cowell's specific conflict. So how are we fixing that?
Well, I'm going to defer to our illustrious city attorney, Coach Shepherd, because the issue, or my understanding, and let's reiterate this, the language that is in there with the runoff will happen 4 weeks after the general election. That is, if we are running the election independently and not piggybacking with the Orange County Supervisor elections.
Yes.
If it's piggybacking with the Orange County Supervisor elections, we will fall on the days that they set.
That is accurate. And I would also say there's that old adage that we probably all learned as children: if at first you don't succeed, try again.
Does our current ordinance say that there's a runoff if there were to be a tie, or does it not address it at all?
It does not address the time.
Interestingly, when people were asking, random people would ask me questions about the ordinances, the part that they were fixated on was the drawing straws, and I know we talked about that at length, and that was actually the part that I think we all kind of agreed was necessary up here anyway.
Right.
But in any case, public education on the drawing of straws.
I think people wanted plurality. People I talked to, they liked the idea of 50%.
I talked to a lot of people who wanted a thumb war.
That could have been the random.
Just from the start.
Game of chance.
Forget votes, just epic battle.
4 to 5 ain't bad.
But to certify certification of canvassing board, would someone please make a motion to accept these results to make them officially official?
I like that. Officially official motion to accept the results.
Thank you. I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wurzel. Aye. Councilmember Weld.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall Harrison.
I get to vote for myself twice.
Aye. Mayor Labs.
Aye. Okay, reports. Mr. City Attorney, any reports?
I have a couple. First is that I know you know, but I can't remember if everybody else knew that we won fees or the entitlement fees in the Peacock Ford case. I had to go back through then and analyze, because it's only from the date of their filing, which was I think in June of 2021, and it's only for the Burt Harris part of the claim. The total came to a little less than $33,000. I sent that number over to the allowance firm,
with a suggestion that since my rates are 190 and 175, or were at the time, that they probably weren't going to win a battle over whether our rates were more reasonable than theirs, which are 3 times that much. And that if they wanted to settle it and avoid us having to run up more fees, because I would actually pay an expert by the hour more than my hourly rate to say that my hourly rate is reasonable. And they said they'd get back to me. In the meantime, they filed a motion for rehearing, which thankfully every judge varies. This one rules in chambers, without any hearings, and that shouldn't take very long. So hopefully we'll hear back from them and I won't have to do anything more in this matter. So that's the first thing. The second thing, late this afternoon, I sent to you a copy of Senate Bill 102, which has been through both chambers of the legislature and has been passed because obviously, as you know, there's sort of a supermajority of Republicans in the legislature now. So it's on the desk of the governor for signature, and it has a number of provisions, pretty long, it's like 90-some odd pages, but the key ones for your consideration, one may not matter to you, but the other one will, and that is that previously, had you wanted to use some sort of mechanism to invoke rent control, you could do that. This bill will take that away, so in the future, if we feel like there's a housing crisis and we need rent control, we can't do that. But the more important thing for your purposes is that anywhere we have currently a place where industrial or commercial or retail zoning exists, you can no longer disallow housing that is multifamily or mixed-use multifamily if they have the percentages in the bill affordable housing in a significant percentage, meaning that you have to give them the most units that are available under our code, the maximum height they're available under our code. You cannot make them apply for a variance. You can't apply any existing criteria to them except, yes, go build. For that purpose, and as bizarre as it sounds, I wanted to just read you a brief excerpt from this magnificent piece of legislation. A municipality must authorize multifamily and mixed-use residential as allowable uses in any area zoned for commercial, industrial, or mixed use if at least 40% of the residential units in a proposed multifamily rental development are, for a period of at least 30 years, affordable as defined under the statute. Notwithstanding any other law, local ordinance, or regulation to the contrary, a municipality may not require proposed multifamily development to obtain a zoning or land use change, special exception, conditional use approval, variance, or, and this is the critical part, comprehensive plan amendment, or the building height, zoning, densities authorized under this subsection for mixed-use residential products. At least 65% of the total square feet must be used for residential purposes. The municipality may not restrict the density of a proposed development authorized under this subsection below the highest allowed density on any land in the municipality where residential development is allowed. The municipality may not restrict the height of a proposed development authorized under this subsection below the highest currently allowable height for a commercial or residential development located in its jurisdiction within 1 mile of the proposed development or 3 stories, whichever is higher. And it goes on. So, if you don't like that, you know who to write to. But there you go. I will say this, we're probably going to see some of these projects coming through.
Say that again?
We will probably see some of these projects come through. So
This-
there's no way to stop them.
Question for you. So, say we do 30 units per acre, 70 feet high, just throwing numbers out there. And does that have anything to do with when the developer comes in to say, listen, we'd love to give you, 40 units per acre and 85 feet if, like incentivizing something. But that doesn't have anything to do with that, correct?
No, if the developer asks for certain things that we would like in exchange for certain things that we're willing to give, that hasn't changed. It's if the developer comes in and says, I'm going to put 150 units in this spot and thumb my nose at you, and you're going to say, thank you, can I have another?
I've already seen that happen here. I didn't like it. So, yeah.
The name of the bill is ironic, I just like to point out, really.
It's
mentions
the
local control.
life is, what is it, like the life is
The
beautiful?
live local act.
Live local, yeah, there you go. Tallahassee is local. you guys didn't realize that.
So who's behind that? I would imagine-
Pasadoma is the sponsor of the bill. Out of
She's a
Naples.
real estate lawyer. She should know.
That's exactly the point. Because who would like this?
Okay.
So I'd send you, if you haven't seen it, I've sent you an email copy highlighted so you can look at it. When you have to check your email, you'll have it.
Okay. And I guess, like I said, I mean, it's already passed both chambers. so
Yeah,
it's just
I would
to the
say that
governor.
there's a real teeny smidgen of a chance that the governor won't sign it, but it's so small as to be like me getting struck by lightning tonight. He surprised me on something that I was certain he would sign off on, that he asked for, and then he didn't. But I think this one is guaranteed he will sign.
All right. Okay, thank you. Cliff, anything else?
Nope.
All right. City manager?
Just a couple reminders. You have our first-ish annual Maitland Jazz and Blues Festival coming up this weekend. So 31st and the 1st, right here on Independence Lane, Independence Square.
How's the weather looking?
Perfect. Will not be better. It'll be awesome.
So, Jay, you got that? You got it?
It's gonna be perfect.
Wear your shorts.
It's gonna be awesome.
93, 13% chance of rain.
There you go. Perfect. We also have our Maitland Tree giveaway. That's April 30th at Lake Lily Park, starting at 9 a.m. You know, they go fast, so get there early and line up. And the Earth Day Farmers Market, 9:30 to 1:30 on the 30th also, here at Independence Lane. So it'll be the Farmers Market with Earth Day themes, a lot of educational stuff going on. We're going to get you some electric vehicle displays out there, so trying to pump it up a little bit.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Council, anybody?
I had the pleasure of going to the opening of the Maitland Little League on Saturday, and they asked me to throw the first pitch, but I declined because that would have been embarrassing, and it probably would have hit a child in the head with a ball if I made it far enough, so I did not do that. But I got to tell them we supported them, and they are trying to rebuild that league, so if you have a chance to see them or to get someone to sign up in your life, they are trying to make that happen over there.
Okay, excellent. Vance, anything?
Nope.
No? Mike?
No, I just look forward to getting Mark Regan interim thing going, so
Yep.
hopefully, I'm tired of it. It's a long title.
Yeah. Good. All right. Lizzie?
The art party at A&H was on Saturday night, and Lori and Vance and I were there. It was a fabulous party. They did an amazing job again this year, and yeah, it was a wonderful evening. And it's just now I think they've got a really good signature event that I look forward to going to for many years to come. So congratulations to them for putting it on and for being so successful.
Okay. Lauren, anything?
Yes, a couple of things. Speaking of great events, don't forget we have the volunteer event coming up on April 11th. But then also to piggyback on Councilmember Wurzel's Maitland Little League, I had a lengthy conversation with the gentleman that's taking over their communications on Friday. Since we were didn't really know what was happening on Saturday. They are planning possibly of having a closing day event. Kind of doing it more of a party style, and they will keep us in the loop to get everyone out there for that. And then the swearing in for our unopposed candidate for council seat 2 and our re-elected council seat 4 is at the April 24th meeting.
I look forward to that being a
Non-Zoom?
no, yeah. I look forward to the two of them getting a proper.
Oh, yeah, because we didn't get it last time.
They were-
Yeah, that was a Zoom one, yeah.
They were deprived of.
Did it in my shorts.
Well,
It was very comfortable.
We didn't need to know that, but.
I mean, yeah. But if, I know Councilmember Wild has had his family want to give him the oath before, so if either of you were wanting to do that, please just let me know.
Okay. All right. Adjourned.
participation.